The elevator doors opened on the 42nd floor, and I stepped into the marble hallway carrying a paper bag that was growing cold. Inside were Julian's favorite things: herb-roasted chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, and the chocolate cake from that bakery in Brooklyn he loved. It was 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, and my husband hadn't come home for dinner again. This was the third time this week. I told myself I was being a good wife. I told myself that successful men worked late. I told myself that 5 years of marriage meant something. The glass doors to Rothwell Enterprises were locked, but I had a key. I'd always had a key. Julian gave it to me on our first anniversary, back when he still looked at me like I mattered. Back when he still touched my face and called me his queen. The office was dark except for the light coming from Julian's corner suite at the end of the hall. I could hear his voice, loud and clear, carrying through the silence. He was laughing. That deep, rich laugh that used to make my heart flutter. Now it made my stomach tight. I walked slowly toward his office, my heels clicking against the floor. The door was slightly open. I should have knocked. I should have called out. Instead, I stood there in the shadows and listened. "God, Simone, you should see what she packed for me today," Julian said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Another sad little lunch with a note that said, 'Thinking of you.' Like I'm in elementary school." A woman's laughter echoed through the speaker. "Video call." He was on a video call. "Poor baby," the woman cooed. "Does your wife not understand that you're a grown man?" "My wife doesn't understand anything," Julian said. "She's like a puppy that won't stop following me around. Honestly, I'd rather kiss a dog than kiss her at this point. At least a dog doesn't ask me about my feelings every 5 minutes." The paper bag slipped from my fingers. It hit the floor with a soft thud, but neither of them heard it. My hands were shaking. My whole body was shaking. "When are you leaving her?" Simone asked. "You keep saying you will, but—" "Soon," Julian interrupted. "I'm just waiting for the right moment. I need to move some assets around first. Can't let her get her hands on my money, you know? Her family might have connections, but she's got nothing else going for her. Once I'm clear, I'll divorce her and we can finally be together properly." I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers. I opened the voice recorder app. Then I stepped closer to the door, angling my phone toward the opening. Record. The red dot appeared on my screen. "You're so smart," Simone purred. "That's why I love you. You think of everything." "I have to, baby." Natasha's father used to be some big-shot financial investigator before he retired. If he gets involved, things could get messy. But they don't talk anymore, thank God. She's too proud to run to Daddy. He was right about that. I hadn't spoken to my father in 3 years, not since he told me Julian was bad news and I chose my husband over him. Dad said Julian was a snake in an expensive suit. I called him jealous and controlling. I should have listened. "What about tonight?" Simone asked. "Are you coming to my place?" "Give me an hour," Julian said. "I need to wrap up some emails, then I'll tell Natasha I'm staying at the office. She'll believe it. She believes everything I tell her." The call ended. I heard Julian's chair creak as he leaned back. I heard him sigh, content and satisfied. I stood there in the hallway, phone still recording, and felt something inside me break. Not my heart. That had already been broken. This was something else. Something deeper. This was the death of who I used to be. I backed away quietly, leaving the dinner on the floor. I took the elevator down and walked to my car in the parking garage. I sat in the driver's seat for 20 minutes, staring at nothing. Then I drove home to our penthouse in Manhattan, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows and furniture that cost more than most people's houses. I went straight to Julian's study. He thought I didn't know about his hidden laptop, the one he kept in the fake book on the third shelf. He thought I didn't notice when he typed in his passwords. But I had noticed everything. For 5 years, I had watched and memorized and made myself small so he could feel big. Not anymore. I opened the laptop. Password, Simone 2019. The year they met, apparently. My stomach turned, but I kept going. I accessed his cloud storage, his emails, his financial records. And what I found made the affair look like nothing. Julian Rothwell, my billionaire husband, the man everyone admired and respected, was a fraud. He'd been embezzling from his own company for years. He'd hidden assets in offshore accounts. He'd made deals using my family's name and connections, then laughed about it with his friends. There were emails calling me his useful idiot. Messages about how he married me for my father's contacts and stayed for the social status. I read everything. I copied everything. I backed it all up to 3 different drives. By the time Julian came home at 2 a.m., smelling like expensive perfume that wasn't mine, I was in bed pretending to sleep. He didn't even check on me. He showered and climbed into bed on his side, a million miles away. I lay there in the dark, listening to him breathe. My husband. My betrayer. My biggest mistake. And I began to plan his destruction. I woke up before Julian. I always woke up before him. For 5 years, I'd made his coffee and laid out his clothes and acted like the perfect corporate wife. This morning was no different, except everything was different. My hands were steady as I ground the coffee beans. My face was calm as I plated his breakfast. Inside, I was a storm, but I'd learned how to hide storms. Julian taught me that. He taught me how to smile when I wanted to scream, how to nod when I wanted to argue, how to disappear into the background of my own life. "Morning," he said, walking into the kitchen in his suit pants and undershirt. He kissed my forehead without really looking at me. Routine. Mechanical. "Any chance you can pick up my dry cleaning today?" "Of course," I said, pouring his coffee exactly how he liked it. 2 sugars, splash of cream. "Will you be home for dinner?" "Probably not. Big meeting with investors. Might run late." Translation: he was seeing Simone. The mistress who thought she was special. The woman who didn't know she was just another transaction in Julian's world. "I understand," I said. "I'll keep something warm for you just in case." He nodded, scrolling through his phone. He didn't notice that I'd already been awake for 4 hours. He didn't notice the dark circles under my eyes or the way my smile didn't reach my face anymore. Julian never noticed anything unless it directly affected him. After he left, I went back to his study. I had work to do. The files I'd found last night were damning, but I needed more. I needed a complete picture of Julian's empire so I could tear it down piece by piece. I spent the entire day going through documents, creating spreadsheets, building a timeline of every shady deal and hidden account. Julian had 12 offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. He'd been funneling money out of his company for 4 years, hiding it from his business partners and the IRS. He'd used shell corporations with fake names. He'd forged signatures on contracts. He'd lied to investors about profit margins and asset values. My husband wasn't just a cheater. He was a criminal. I found emails between Julian and his lawyer discussing how to divorce me while protecting his assets. They'd planned to claim I was mentally unstable, that I'd never contributed to his success, that I deserved nothing. There was even a draft of a statement Julian planned to release, painting himself as the victim of a gold-digging wife who married him for money. The irony would have been funny if it didn't hurt so much. But the worst part, the part that made my blood run cold, was the folder labeled insurance. Inside were photos of me. Hundreds of photos taken without my knowledge. Me getting dressed. Me in the shower. Me crying in our bedroom after arguments. Julian had been documenting everything, building a case against me for years. He'd planned this from the beginning. I sat back in his leather chair and stared at the ceiling. 5 years. 5 years of my life spent loving a man who saw me as an obstacle to remove. 5 years of making myself smaller and quieter and less. 5 years of believing that if I just tried harder, loved better, he would see me. He saw me. He just didn't care. My phone buzzed. Text from Julian, going to be even later than I thought. Don't wait up. I texted back, okay. Love you. He didn't respond. He never responded to those texts anymore. I looked at the mountain of evidence spread across the desk. This was enough to destroy him. Enough to send him to prison. Enough to take everything he'd built and burn it to the ground. But I needed help. I needed someone who understood finance and law and how to hurt men like Julian where it mattered most. I needed someone who knew how to fight dirty. I needed my father. The thought made my chest tight. Bennett Winters and I hadn't spoken since my wedding day, when he'd stood up during the reception and said he couldn't support a marriage built on lies. Julian had him removed from the venue. I'd watched security escort my father out and done nothing. I'd chosen Julian over the man who raised me alone after my mother died. I'd chosen so wrong. I picked up my phone and stared at Dad's contact. My finger hovered over the call button for 5 minutes. Pride and shame warred in my chest. He'd been right about everything, and I'd thrown him away for a man who'd rather kiss a dog than me. I pressed call. It rang 4 times. I almost hung up. Then his voice came through, rough and cautious. "Natasha?" "Dad," I said, and my voice cracked. "I need help. You were right about Julian. You were right about everything." There was a long pause. Then, "Where are you?" "Home. Our place in Manhattan. I'll be there in 2 hours. Don't let him know you called me. Don't tell him anything. Can you do that?" "Yes." "Good girl. We're going to fix this." He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, feeling something I hadn't felt in years, hope. 2 hours later, my father stood in Julian's study, looking at the evidence I'd compiled. He was older than I remembered, more gray hair, deeper lines around his eyes. But his mind was still sharp as a blade. "This is good," he said, clicking through files on the laptop. "This is really good, Tasha. He's been sloppy. Arrogant. He thinks he's untouchable. Can we use it? We can do more than use it. We can destroy him." Dad looked at me, his eyes hard. "But I need to know you're sure. Once we start this, there's no going back. Julian will come after you with everything he has." "He already has nothing but contempt for me," I said. "I want him to lose everything the way he made me lose myself." Dad nodded slowly. "Then we need a lawyer. I know someone. Best in the business. She's taken down CEOs, politicians, anyone who thought they were above the law. Her name is Patricia Hammond. Will she take the case? Once she sees this evidence? She'll take it for free just for the publicity. But Natasha, you need to be strong. The next few months are going to be hell." I thought about the video of Julian laughing about me. I thought about 5 years of being invisible. I thought about Simone and the offshore accounts and the photos he'd taken without my permission. "I'm ready," I said. "Let's burn it all down." Patricia Hammond's office was nothing like I expected. No mahogany furniture or expensive art. Just a simple desk, metal filing cabinets, and walls covered in newspaper clippings about cases she'd won. CEOs behind bars. Politicians exposed. Corrupt executives stripped of everything. She was younger than I thought she'd be, maybe 40, with short black hair and sharp brown eyes that seemed to see straight through me. She wore a simple black suit and no jewelry except a watch. "Ms. Winters," she said, shaking my hand. Her grip was firm. "Your father sent me the preliminary files. Impressive work for someone with no legal training." "I had motivation," I said. She smiled. It wasn't warm, but it was real. "Motivation is good. Rage is better. Do you have rage, Natasha?" I thought about that question. Did I have rage? Or just hurt? "I have something," I said. "Something that won't let me stop." "Good enough." Patricia gestured to a chair. Dad and I sat down. She pulled up files on her computer and turned the screen so we could see. "I've spent the last 72 hours reviewing everything you collected. Your husband is going to prison. That's not a maybe. That's a certainty. The question is how much damage you want to do on the way there." "All of it," I said. "I want him to lose everything." Patricia nodded. "Then here's what we're going to do. We're building 3 cases simultaneously. Civil, criminal, and federal. The civil case is your divorce. We're going after every asset, every account, every property. The criminal case is fraud, embezzlement, tax evasion. The federal case involves the SEC and possibly the FBI, depending on how deep his corruption goes." My head spun. "All of that. Your husband has committed dozens of felonies," Patricia said flatly. "He's stolen from his own company, hidden assets from the government, and committed wire fraud across state lines. He's looking at 20 years minimum if we do this right." 20 years. Julian would be in his 60s when he got out. His empire would be dust. Everything he'd built would be gone. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Everything. Every document, every recording, every shred of evidence. I also need you to keep playing the good wife while we prepare. Can you do that? Can you look him in the eye every day knowing what's coming?" I remembered the sound of his laugh as he mocked me. "Yes." "It won't be easy," Dad said quietly. "He'll touch you, talk to you, lie to your face. You'll have to act normal." "I've been acting normal for 5 years while he destroyed me piece by piece," I said. "I can do it a little longer." Patricia leaned forward. "There's something else you should know. Once we file, the media will be all over this. Julian Rothwell is a public figure. This will be news. Your life will be examined. They'll dig into your past, your family, everything. Are you prepared for that?" I hadn't thought about that part. The cameras. The reporters. The social media attacks from Julian's supporters. There would be people who called me a liar, a gold digger, a bitter ex-wife making up stories. "They're going to say terrible things about you," Patricia continued. "They're going to try to paint you as unstable or vindictive. Julian's lawyers will leak stories to friendly journalists. It's going to hurt." "More than this already hurts?" I asked. Patricia's expression softened slightly. "Different kind of hurt. But yes, possibly." "I don't care," I said. "I want the truth out there. I want everyone to know what he is." "Then we have work to do." Patricia pulled out a thick folder. "First, we need to secure your finances. I'm assuming you have joint accounts?" "Everything is joint except his secret accounts." We need to protect your share before he can move it. I'm filing an emergency motion to freeze all marital assets. It'll tip him off that something's wrong, but it'll prevent him from hiding everything before the divorce. Dad cleared his throat. What about the criminal charges? When do we bring in the authorities? Soon, Patricia said. But we need to be strategic. If we go to the SEC too early, Julian's lawyers might be able to suppress evidence or cut a deal. We need everything airtight first. I'm talking a paper trail so clear that even the best defense attorney in the country can't poke holes in it. How long? I asked. 6 weeks. Maybe 8. Can you hold on that long? I thought about going home to Julian tonight, smiling at him, pretending everything was fine. 8 more weeks of living a lie. I can hold on as long as it takes, I said. Patricia smiled for real this time. Good. Because we're about to make your husband very, very sorry he ever underestimated you. We spent the next 4 hours going through everything. Patricia had me sign documents, answer questions, recall every detail of my marriage I could remember. She recorded it all, took notes in a legal pad that filled up page after page. Tell me about Simone Grant, Patricia said. The mistress. I don't know much about her. She works in marketing, I think. They've been together for at least 6 months, maybe longer. We'll find out everything about her, Patricia said. Does she know he's planning to leave you? Based on what I heard, yes. He's promised her they'll be together once the divorce is final. Patricia snorted. Men like Julian don't leave their wives for their mistresses. They trade up for newer models once the current one stops being useful. Simone is just as disposable as you were to him. The words should have stung, but they didn't. They were just true. We could use her, Dad said thoughtfully. If she thinks she's getting the golden ticket, she might have information that could help us. No, Patricia said firmly. We don't contact her, don't approach her, don't give her any warning. She's going to find out about all of this the same way everyone else does, when it hits the news. I imagine Simone's face when she realized Julian was broke and headed to prison. Would she feel betrayed? Would she understand that she was just another piece on his chessboard? Probably not. Women like Simone thought they were special. They thought they'd won some kind of prize by stealing another woman's husband. They never realized the prize was worthless. What about Julian's business partners? I asked. Some of them are my friends. Or they were. They'll choose sides, Patricia said bluntly. Some will support you. Most won't. They're invested in Julian's success. When we expose him, they'll lose money. They're not going to thank you for it. Another loss. Another thing Julian had taken from me. My social circle, my community, all of it built on his reputation. When his reputation crumbled, so would everything else. I don't care, I said. Anyone who stays loyal to him after they know the truth was never really my friend anyway. That's the spirit, Patricia said. She closed her laptop and looked at me seriously. Natasha, I want you to understand something. This process is going to change you. You're not going to be the same person when this is over. You're going to be harder, more cynical, less trusting. That's not necessarily bad, but it's real. Are you okay with that? I thought about who I'd been when I met Julian. 23 years old, fresh out of college, full of dreams about love and partnership and building a life together. That girl was already gone. She died slowly over 5 years of neglect and cruelty. I'm already changed, I said. Now I'm just making it official. Patricia stood up and offered her hand again. Then welcome to the war, Natasha. We're going to win. The next 6 weeks were the strangest of my life. I woke up every morning next to a man I was planning to destroy. I made his coffee and asked about his day and pretended I didn't know he was lying about everything. Julian grew more careless as the days passed. He stayed out later. Came home smelling like perfume. Took calls from Simone while I was in the next room. He thought I was blind, deaf, stupid. He thought I'd never figure it out. That was his mistake. I played my part perfectly. The dutiful wife. The woman who asked no questions and made no demands. I attended his business dinners and smiled at his colleagues and acted like I didn't notice when he flirted with other women right in front of me. But I was documenting everything. Every late night. Every lie about where he'd been. Every credit card charge at expensive restaurants and hotels. Patricia had given me a separate phone for evidence collection. I filled it with photos and recordings and receipts. I built a timeline of his affair that was impossible to deny. And I started making connections. There was a man named Andre Thompson who'd been trying to buy one of Julian's companies for years. Julian had refused every offer, claiming the business was too valuable. But I'd seen the real numbers. Julian was drowning in debt. His empire was built on credit and lies. I met Andre at a charity event. Julian was busy schmoozing investors, so I approached Andre alone. Mr. Thompson, I said, offering my hand. Natasha Rothwell. I don't think we've been properly introduced. He was surprised but recovered quickly. Mrs. Rothwell. I've heard so much about you. All good things, I hope. Your husband speaks very highly of you. Liar. But I smiled anyway. I wanted to ask your advice about something if you have a moment. We moved to a quiet corner of the ballroom. Andre looked curious and slightly suspicious. He probably thought I was going to ask him to stop pursuing Julian's company. I'm interested in learning more about the luxury goods market, I said. Julian works so hard and I feel like I should understand his world better. You've been in this business a long time. Would you be willing to share some insights? It was perfect. Non-threatening. The little wife trying to support her husband. Men like Andre ate that up. Of course, he said. What would you like to know? We talked for 20 minutes. I asked intelligent questions that I'd prepared in advance. I mentioned casually that Julian seemed stressed lately, that the business was demanding. I wondered aloud if he was overextending himself. Andre's eyes sharpened. What makes you say that? Oh, nothing specific. He just works such long hours. Sometimes I wonder if he's taking on too much. I planted the seed carefully. Let Andre think he'd discovered something on his own. Men like him didn't trust women who seemed too knowledgeable. They trusted their own instincts. The luxury market is challenging right now, Andre said carefully. Profit margins are thin. Companies that look successful on paper might be struggling underneath. That's concerning, I said. I hope Julian knows what he's doing. I'm sure he does. But doubt was there now. I could see it in Andre's face. He'd start asking questions. Looking closer at Julian's business. Maybe making some phone calls to mutual contacts. Julian appeared at my elbow. Darling, there you are. We should get going. Of course. I smiled at Andre. Thank you so much for the conversation. Very educational. In the car ride home, Julian was quiet. Finally he said, What were you talking to Andre Thompson about? He was telling me about the luxury goods market. I thought it would be nice to understand your work better. Stay away from him, Julian said sharply. He's a shark. He's been trying to buy my company for years. I didn't know. I was just making conversation. Well, you don't understand business. You'll say something stupid and make me look bad. There it was. The casual cruelty that had become so normal I barely flinched anymore. I looked out the window and said nothing. But I was smiling in the darkness. At home I sent Patricia an encrypted email, planted doubts with that. He's going to start investigating JR's finances. She replied within minutes, Perfect. Keep playing the innocent wife. You're doing great. I was doing great. For the first time in 5 years I was good at something that mattered. I was good at revenge. The next week I did it again with another one of Julian's rivals. Then again with a journalist who'd written critical pieces about luxury industry fraud. I never said anything directly. I just asked innocent questions and made concerned observations and let them draw their own conclusions. Julian's world was starting to crack. He didn't see it yet, but the foundation was crumbling. He came home one night angry about something. Thompson is asking questions, he said, pouring himself a drink. Calling my investors. Spreading rumors about my company. That's terrible, I said. Why would he do that? Because he's a snake. He wants to buy my business cheap, so he's trying to tank my reputation. Can't you sue him or something? Julian laughed bitterly. For what? Asking questions? That's not illegal. No, but embezzlement was. Tax fraud was. All the things Julian had done that Andre was getting close to discovering. I'm sure it'll blow over, I said. Everyone knows how successful you are. Julian looked at me like I was a child. You don't understand how this works. Perception is everything. If people think I'm in trouble, I'm in trouble. Confidence drops, stock prices fall, investors pull out. It's a domino effect. Then maybe you should be more transparent. Show them there's nothing to worry about. I can't just open my books to everyone who asks, he snapped. That's proprietary information. Translation. He couldn't show anyone his books because his books would send him to prison. He went to his study and slammed the door. I heard him on the phone with his lawyers, his voice rising and falling in anger. He was worried. Finally. I went to my bedroom and texted Patricia. He's panicking. The pressure is working. Good. In 2 weeks we file. Get ready. 2 weeks. 14 days until I served Julian with divorce papers and exposed every crime he'd committed. 14 days until I destroyed his life the way he destroyed mine. I could hardly wait. But I had to be patient. I had to keep playing the role. So I made dinner and brought it to Julian's study and listened to him complain about his problems. I nodded sympathetically. I told him everything would be okay. And inside, I counted down the days until everything fell apart. Julian grew more paranoid. He started changing his passwords, moving money between accounts, having whispered phone conversations that stopped when I entered the room. He was trying to protect himself from threats he could see. He never saw me coming. One night he didn't come home at all. He texted at midnight, staying at the office. Too much work to drive home. I knew he was with Simone. I didn't care anymore. Let him have his last few nights of happiness. Let him think he was getting away with everything. The fall would be so much harder from that height. I spent the night organizing my evidence one final time, making sure every document was perfect. Every recording was clear. Every piece of the puzzle was in place. At 3 a.m. Dad called. "You okay, Tasha?" "I'm good. Can't sleep." "Nervous?" "Excited," I said. And I meant it. For the first time in forever, I felt alive. Like I had power. Like I mattered. "Your mother would be proud of you," Dad said quietly. She never let anyone push her around either. I hadn't thought about Mom in years. She died when I was 12, and the grief had been so big I'd locked it away. But now I remembered her strength. The way she stood up to people who tried to diminish her. The way she taught me that being kind didn't mean being weak. "I wish she was here," I said. "She is. In everything you're doing. You're fighting back, Tasha. That takes courage." We talked for another hour. About Mom. About mistakes. About the future I was going to build when this was all over. By the time we hung up, the sun was rising. Julian came home at 7 a.m. looking tired but satisfied. "Morning," he said, heading straight for the shower. "Good morning," I replied. "Productive night at the office?" "Very productive." I bet it was. I wondered if Simone knew these were her last days as the special one. Julian would throw her away the moment she stopped being useful. Just like he'd done to me. But I wasn't going to warn her. I wasn't going to save her from the truth. She'd chosen to be with a married man. Now she could live with the consequences. 13 days left. Then the war began. Patricia called on a Wednesday morning. "We're ready." "Are you ready?" I looked around the penthouse that had been my prison for 5 years. The expensive furniture Julian picked out. The art I didn't like but never complained about. The life that looked perfect from the outside and was hollow at the core. "I'm ready." "Good. I'm filing the SEC complaint this afternoon. Anonymous tip about financial irregularities at Rothwell Enterprises. By tomorrow morning, federal investigators will be all over his company." My heart started racing. That fast. The evidence is too strong to ignore. They'll have to investigate. And once they start digging, they'll find everything. What do I do? Nothing. You're the innocent wife who knows nothing about her husband's business. If Julian asks you questions, play dumb. If investigators contact you, refer them to me. Do not talk to anyone without me present. "Okay. Natasha." Patricia's voice was serious. "This is it. Once I file this complaint, there's no going back. The dominoes start falling. Are you absolutely sure?" I thought about the sound of Julian's laugh as he mocked me. I thought about 5 years of being invisible. I thought about the photos he'd taken without my permission and the affair and the embezzlement and every single lie. "File it," I said. 6 hours later, the first domino fell. I was making dinner when Julian burst through the door, his face red with rage. "Did you talk to anyone about my business? Anyone at all?" I kept my voice calm. "What do you mean?" "Federal investigators showed up at my office today. The SEC is investigating me for financial fraud." "Who did you talk to?" "No one." "Julian, I don't understand." "Someone tipped them off. Someone gave them information about my accounts." "What accounts?" I thought everything was fine with the business. He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "You really don't know anything, do you? You're actually that clueless?" The insult should have hurt. Instead, it made me glad. He still underestimated me. That was his fatal flaw. "I don't know what's happening," I said. "But if investigators are asking questions, maybe you should just cooperate with them. Show them everything is legitimate." Julian laughed harshly. "You have no idea how any of this works. I can't just show them everything. There are privacy issues. Legal complications. Translation, there were crimes to hide." He spent the rest of the night on the phone with lawyers. I heard fragments of conversations through the door. Offshore accounts, client privilege, need more time. The next morning, the stock market opened and Rothwell Enterprises stock dropped 15%. The news was everywhere: luxury mogul under federal investigation. Julian didn't go to work. He stayed in his study, drinking expensive scotch and yelling at people over the phone. His business partners. His lawyers. His accountants. I brought him lunch that he didn't eat. "Is there anything I can do to help?" "No," he said without looking at me. "This is business. You wouldn't understand. I could call people. Maybe talk to the wives of your partners. See if—" "No." His voice was sharp. "Don't talk to anyone about this. Don't mention it at all. This is a private matter." He was trying to contain the damage. Trying to control the narrative. But the story was already spreading. My phone buzzed with texts from people I hadn't heard from in months. "Is Julian okay? Saw the news. Let me know if you need anything." This must be a mistake. I responded to each one carefully, playing the concerned, confused wife. "I don't know what's happening. It's all very overwhelming." That night, Simone called. Julian answered and stepped out onto the balcony. I watched through the window as he paced back and forth, gesturing angrily. The conversation lasted 20 minutes. When he came back inside, his face was dark. "Problems with the girlfriend?" I asked innocently. He looked startled. "What? You looked upset after that call." I thought maybe it was bad news about the investigation. "It was my lawyer," he lied. "They're worried about how this looks." "Will you have to testify or something?" "I don't know yet." "Stop asking questions." But I couldn't stop. I was the worried wife, remember? "Julian, are we going to be okay? Financially, I mean. If the investigation—" "We're fine," he snapped. "I have money put aside. Even if the company has problems, we'll be fine." The offshore accounts he thought I didn't know about. The money he was planning to hide from me in the divorce. The nest egg he'd built by stealing from his own business. "That's good," I said. "I was worried." He softened slightly. "You don't need to worry about money. I'll always take care of you." The lie was so smooth, so practiced. He'd probably said the same thing to Simone. The investigation moved fast. Within a week, federal agents had seized computers from Julian's office. They'd subpoenaed bank records. They'd interviewed employees and business partners. Julian aged years and days. He stopped sleeping. Started drinking more. Became paranoid about every phone call and every email. "Someone is leaking information to them," he said one night. "Someone inside my company is talking." "Who would do that?" I asked. "I don't know. But when I find out, I'll destroy them." The irony was delicious. He'd spent years destroying me slowly, and now someone was destroying him. He just didn't know the someone was me. More dominoes fell. Two of Julian's business partners pulled out of a major deal. A luxury brand canceled their contract with his company. Investors started asking pointed questions about the offshore accounts the SEC had discovered. Julian tried to spin it. He gave an interview claiming the investigation was a misunderstanding. A competitor's attempt to damage his reputation. There was nothing to worry about. But his stock kept dropping. 20%. 25%. 30%. I watched it all from the sidelines, playing my role. The supportive wife who brought him meals and didn't ask too many questions. The woman who stood beside him at charity events and smiled for cameras even as whispers followed us everywhere. "Is it true? I heard the FBI is involved." Poor Natasha. She must be devastated. I was devastated. Just not the way they thought. 2 weeks after the investigation started, Julian came home with a strange expression on his face. He sat down on the couch and stared at nothing for a long time. "Julian?" I said. "What's wrong?" "They found something," he said quietly. "The investigators. They found discrepancies in the accounts. They're talking about fraud charges." I sat down next to him, close but not touching. "That can't be right. You haven't done anything wrong." He looked at me then. Really looked at me. "What if I have? What if I made mistakes that look bad now? What if I did things that seemed smart at the time but are actually illegal?" This was my moment. My chance to comfort the man who'd betrayed me. To be the good wife one more time. "Then we'll deal with it," I said. "Together. Whatever happens." He grabbed my hand. His palm was sweaty. "I don't deserve you. I've been a terrible husband. I know I work too much. I know I'm not around enough. But you've always been there." I squeezed his hand. "I'm not going anywhere." Another lie. But this time it was my lie. That night, after Julian finally fell asleep, I went to the guest bathroom and recorded a voice memo for Patricia. "He's breaking." He admitted there might be fraud charges. He's scared. and I got it all on tape. She replied within minutes, perfect. Send me the recording. We'll use it. Everything was falling into place. The empire was crumbling. Julian was panicking. And I was still invisible, standing in the wreckage with gasoline and matches, just waiting for the right moment to burn it all down. The divorce papers were delivered on a Monday morning. I wasn't home when it happened. Patricia suggested I stay at a hotel the night before, just in case Julian became violent when he was served. He won't hurt me, I'd said. You don't know that. Desperate men do terrible things. So I'd packed a bag while Julian was at an emergency board meeting. I told him I was visiting a friend for a few days. He barely looked up from his phone. Fine. Whatever. I checked into a hotel in Midtown. Dad came to stay with me. We ordered room service and watched old movies and tried not to think about what was happening across town. Patricia had planned everything perfectly. The process server arrived at Julian's office at 10 a.m., right in the middle of his board meeting. In front of all his executives and business partners, Julian was handed an envelope containing divorce papers, copies of all his financial crimes, and a civil complaint seeking full dissolution of marital assets. My phone rang at 10:07 a.m. Julian. I didn't answer. He called 6 more times. Then he started texting. What the hell is this? Call me right now. Natasha, this isn't funny. We need to talk. I blocked his number. Patricia called at 10:15. It's done. He's been served. How are you feeling? I don't know, I said honestly. My hands were shaking. My whole body felt electric. Like I jumped off a cliff and I'm still falling. That's normal. Do not contact him. Do not answer his calls. If he shows up at the hotel, call security immediately. Okay. And Natasha? You did the right thing. Remember that when it gets hard. It got hard fast. By noon the news had leaked. Social media exploded. Billionaire Julian Rothwell's wife files for divorce amid federal investigation. My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from people I barely knew. Friend requests from strangers. Messages from reporters asking for comments. I turned off my phone. Dad and I sat in silence watching the news coverage on TV. A reporter stood outside Rothwell Enterprises. Sources say Mrs. Rothwell's divorce filing includes allegations of infidelity and financial misconduct. The timing is certainly suspicious, coming just weeks after federal investigators began looking into the company's finances. They're making it about me, I said. Like I'm trying to get money while he's vulnerable. That's what his PR team wants people to think, Dad said. But Patricia's already working on that. Just wait. At 2 p.m., Patricia held a press conference. She stood at a podium looking fierce and confident, and read a prepared statement. My client, Natasha Rothwell, has filed for divorce from Julian Rothwell after discovering extensive financial fraud and a pattern of infidelity. The divorce filing includes evidence of Mr. Rothwell's affairs, his plans to hide assets from his wife, and documentation of his involvement in illegal financial activities. Mrs. Rothwell has cooperated fully with federal investigators and will continue to do so. She asks for privacy during this difficult time. Questions erupted from reporters. Patricia answered a few carefully chosen ones. How long has Mrs. Rothwell known about the affairs? She discovered evidence of infidelity approximately 2 months ago. Did she know about the financial crimes? Mrs. Rothwell had no knowledge of her husband's illegal activities until recently. She was as shocked as anyone to learn what he'd been doing. Is she seeking a settlement? Mrs. Rothwell is seeking her legal share of legitimate marital assets. She has no interest in money obtained through illegal means. It was perfect. Patricia made me look like the victim, which I was. The innocent wife who'd been betrayed and lied to. The woman who did the right thing by coming forward. But online the narrative was different. Comments on news articles were brutal. She's just after his money. Perfect timing to file for divorce when he's being investigated. Gold digger. She probably knew about everything and is trying to save herself. Women always take advantage when men are down. Dad saw me reading them. Don't look at those. They don't know you. They don't matter. But they did matter. Because these strangers believed Julian's version of reality. They thought I was the villain in this story. My phone rang. Patricia. I answered. I need you to prepare for something, she said. Julian's lawyers just released a statement. My stomach dropped. What does it say? That you're a bitter, vindictive wife who's trying to destroy him out of jealousy. That your allegations are fabricated. That you're working with his competitors to sabotage his business. None of that is true. I know. But his team is going to push that narrative hard. They're going to try to discredit you before the trial. Make you look unreliable. How do we fight back? We released the recordings. I thought about the video of Julian laughing about me. The audio of him discussing his crimes. The evidence I'd spent weeks collecting. All of it. Not everything. Just enough to prove you're telling the truth. Enough to shut down his lies. Okay. Do it. That night, Patricia released a partial recording to the media. Just 30 seconds. But it was damning. Julian's voice, clear and cold. I'd rather kiss a dog than kiss her at this point. And Simone's response, when are you leaving her? The internet lost its mind. Within hours, I went from gold digger to victim. The narrative flipped. Suddenly everyone was on my side. Suddenly Julian was the monster. He said he'd rather kiss a dog? What a disgusting human being. She deserves every penny. Team Natasha all the way. My phone started ringing again. This time with supportive messages. I'm so sorry you went through that. You're so brave for leaving him. If you need anything, I'm here. It should have felt good. It should have felt like vindication. Instead, I just felt empty. Julian showed up at the hotel at midnight. Security called my room. Mrs. Rothwell, your husband is in the lobby. He's demanding to see you. Don't let him up. He's refusing to leave. Dad grabbed his phone. I'll call the police. No, I said. I'll go down. I want to see him. Tasha. I need to do this. I took the elevator down to the lobby. Julian was there looking like hell. His suit was wrinkled. His hair was a mess. His eyes were wild. Natasha, he said, rushing toward me. Security stepped between us. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. You can't do this. You can't destroy me like this. I'm not destroying you, Julian. I'm just telling the truth. Those recordings are out of context. I didn't mean those things. I was angry. You meant every word. He tried to push past security. Please. Just give me 5 minutes. Let me explain. Explain what? The affairs? The stealing? The offshore accounts? The photos you took of me without my permission? His face went pale. You know about the photos? I know about everything. Security was moving him toward the door. He fought against them. You're going to regret this. I have lawyers. I have money. I'll make your life hell. You already did, I said. Now it's your turn. They removed him from the building. I watched through the glass doors as he stood on the sidewalk, screaming at no one. Then he got in his car and drove away. I went back to my room. Dad was pacing. Are you okay? I'm fine. He looked unhinged. Good. Let him fall apart. Let everyone see what he really is. I meant it. But that night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the man I'd married. The man who'd promised to love me forever. That man was gone. Maybe he'd never existed at all. By morning, 3 more of Julian's business partners had withdrawn their investments. The stock was in free fall. And Simone Grant had posted a statement on social media claiming she'd been manipulated and lied to by Julian. She was trying to save herself. Trying to play victim. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. The dominoes were falling faster now. Everything Julian built was collapsing. And I was standing in the middle of the destruction, watching it all burn. The next 2 weeks were chaos. Julian's company lost half its value. Major contracts were canceled. Investors pulled out by the dozens. The federal investigation expanded to include wire fraud and money laundering. And I watched it all from a distance, safe in my hotel room, while Patricia handled everything. The prosecutors want to talk to you, she said during one of our daily calls. They need your testimony about the financial records you found. When? Next week. They're building their case. With your evidence and the documents they've seized, they think they can get multiple felony convictions. Multiple felonies. Years in prison. Everything gone. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. There's something else, Patricia said. Simone Grant's lawyer contacted me. She wants to meet with you. Why? She claims she wants to apologize. Says she didn't know Julian was lying to her too. I don't care what she wants. I agree. But her lawyer is suggesting she might have information that could help our case. Emails. Texts. Evidence of Julian's plans. She can give that to the prosecutors. She will. But she wants to talk to you first. Says it's important. No. Patricia didn't argue. Okay. I'll tell them you're not interested. But the request bothered me. What could Simone possibly have to say that I'd want to hear? Dad thought I should meet with her. Maybe she knows something that could help. Maybe Julian told her things he didn't tell you. I don't want her help. I know. But think about it strategically. If she has evidence, we should know about it. He was right, but I couldn't make myself care. Simone was part of the problem. She'd slept with my husband knowing he was married. She'd laughed with him about me. Why would I want anything from her? The news cycle was relentless. Every day brought new revelations about Julian's crimes. Money hidden in fake companies. Bribes to foreign officials. Tax evasion schemes dating back a decade. He'd been a criminal the entire time I knew him. Our whole marriage had been built on lies and stolen money. And I'd never suspected a thing. That was the part that hurt most. Not the betrayal. Not the affairs. But the fact that I'd been so blind. So trusting. So stupid. You weren't stupid, Dad said when I told him this. You were in love. Love makes people vulnerable. I wasn't just vulnerable. I was completely clueless. How did I not see it? Because he was good at hiding it. Because he's a sociopath who's been lying his entire life. You can't blame yourself for not seeing through a professional liar. But I did blame myself. For staying so long. For ignoring my instincts. For choosing Julian over my father and my own common sense. The media wanted interviews. Everyone wanted to hear my story. Patricia fielded dozens of requests from talk shows and magazines and podcasts. You could make a lot of money, she said. Tell your side of things. Take control of the narrative. I don't want money from this. Then do it for other women. Show them what financial abuse looks like. Help them recognize the signs. That made sense. But I wasn't ready. I couldn't talk about it yet without breaking down. Maybe later, I said. After the trial. Julian's trial date was set for 6 months away. 6 months of waiting. 6 months of living in limbo while lawyers argued and prosecutors built their case and the media dissected every aspect of my marriage. I couldn't stay in the hotel forever. I needed a place to live. A life to rebuild. Patricia helped me find an apartment in Brooklyn. Small but nice. Nothing like the penthouse I'd left behind. I furnished it simply. No expensive art or designer furniture. Just comfortable things that were mine. Dad helped me move. It took one afternoon. Everything I owned fit in his car. You're starting over? He said as we carried boxes up the stairs. That's not a bad thing. Feels lonely. It won't always. You'll make new friends. Build a new life. Find yourself again. I wanted to believe him. The apartment felt empty that first night. I sat on the floor eating takeout and staring at blank walls. No Julian. No marriage. No identity as someone's wife. Just me. It was terrifying. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Natasha? It's Andre Thompson. Julian's business rival. The man I'd planted doubts with weeks ago. Mr. Thompson. How did you get my number? Your lawyer gave it to me. Said you might want to hear what I have to say. What is it? I'm buying Rothwell Enterprises. What's left of it anyway? The company is bankrupt, the board voted to sell, and I'm making an offer. Good for you. I wanted to tell you personally. And to say thank you. For what? You know what? That conversation we had at the charity event. You made me look closer at Julian's business. You started this whole thing. Had I? Maybe. But Julian had destroyed himself long before I came along. I just asked questions, I said. You asked the right questions. And because of that, a lot of people are going to avoid losing money when that house of cards finally collapsed completely. So thank you. He hung up. I sat there thinking about that night at the charity event. How nervous I'd been. How carefully I'd chosen my words. How satisfying it had been to see the doubt in Andre's eyes. I'd started the avalanche. I'd pushed the first domino. Everything else had just been gravity. A week later, Simone Grant's story hit the news. She'd given an interview to a major magazine, crying about how Julian had manipulated her. How he'd promised to leave me and marry her. How she'd believed his lies. I feel terrible about what I did, she told the interviewer. I believed him when he said his marriage was over. I believed him when he said his wife didn't love him. I was wrong. And I'm sorry. Too little too late. But the public ate it up. Simone became another one of Julian's victims. Another woman he'd used and discarded. I didn't feel bad for her. She'd made her choices. Now she had to live with them. But I understood her better now. Julian was good at making people believe his lies. He'd convinced me I wasn't good enough. He'd convinced her she was special. He'd convinced his business partners he was successful. All lies. All smoke and mirrors. The prosecutors called. They wanted to schedule my testimony. Patricia and I spent 3 days preparing. going over questions, practicing answers, making sure I didn't say anything that could hurt the case. Just tell the truth, Patricia said. That's all you need to do. The truth. Such a simple concept. But it had taken me 5 years to see it. I testified on a Tuesday morning in a federal courthouse. The room was cold and official. Julian's lawyers tried to intimidate me with hard questions, but Patricia had prepared me well. Isn't it true that you had access to all your husband's accounts? No. I only had access to our joint accounts. But you lived in luxury. You benefited from his crimes. I didn't know they were crimes. I thought we were living on legitimate income. Convenient that you only discovered these so-called crimes when your marriage fell apart. I discovered them when I finally started looking. When I stopped trusting him blindly. It went on for hours. By the end I was exhausted. But I'd done it. I told the truth. Julian sat in the courtroom, looking nothing like the confident billionaire I'd married. He looked small, broken, defeated. Our eyes met once. I felt nothing. No anger. No satisfaction. Nothing. He was a stranger. He'd always been a stranger. Patricia drove me home. You did great. The prosecutors are thrilled. When will the verdict come? Months probably. But with your testimony and all the evidence, conviction is almost certain. Almost certain. Nothing was ever really certain. But I'd done my part. I told the truth. Whatever happened next was out of my hands. That night I got a text from an unknown number. I hope you're happy now. You destroyed everything. Julian. Using a new phone. I blocked the number and went to bed. 3 months after I testified, I started my business. Winters Consulting. A firm dedicated to helping women recognize and escape financial abuse. It wasn't planned. It started when a woman from my old social circle reached out. Her name was Rebecca, and her husband was one of Julian's former business partners. I've been reading about your case, she said over coffee, and I think my husband might be doing the same things. Hiding money. Lying about finances. I don't know how to find out for sure. I helped her. I showed her what to look for. How to access records. How to document everything. 6 weeks later, she filed for divorce with evidence of her husband's affairs and offshore accounts. She told her friends. They told their friends. Suddenly I was getting calls from women all over the city. All with the same story. All needing help. Dad suggested I make it official. You're good at this. You could really help people. So I did. I rented a small office. Got a business license. Built a website. Winters Consulting was born. The work was hard but satisfying. Every woman I helped felt like revenge against Julian. Like proof that he hadn't broken me. He'd made me stronger. I hired 2 employees. Then 4. Then 6. We grew faster than I expected. Apparently there were a lot of women who needed help escaping bad marriages. Patricia referred clients to me. So did divorce lawyers across the city. My reputation grew. The woman who took down Julian Rothwell was now helping other women take down their own Julian Rothwells. It felt good. It felt right. But it was also lonely. I threw myself into work. 60-hour weeks. Constant meetings and phone calls and research. I didn't date. Didn't socialize. Didn't do anything except work and sleep. Dad noticed. You're going to burn out. I'm fine. You're hiding. Just like you hid in your marriage. Different cage, same bird. He was right, but I didn't want to admit it. Then I met Dominic. It was at a coffee shop near my office. I'd stopped in for my afternoon caffeine fix and the place was packed. No empty tables. You can share mine if you want, a voice said. I turned and saw a man in his late 30s, wearing a casual sweater and reading a thick book about philosophy. Thanks, I said, sitting down. We didn't talk at first. He read his book. I checked emails on my phone. It was comfortable. Easy. Then he said, I know who you are. My stomach dropped. Here we go. Another person who wanted to ask about Julian or the trial or how I felt about everything. You don't have to worry, he continued. I'm not a reporter or anything. I'm just a teacher. But I followed your case. What you did was brave. Thank you. I mean it. Most people would have just walked away quietly. Taken the money and disappeared. But you fought back. You made him face consequences. That takes real courage. We started talking. His name was Dominic Hayes. He taught philosophy at a community college. He'd never been married. He loved books and hiking and his students. He was normal. Real. Nothing like Julian. We exchanged numbers. Met for coffee again the next week. Then dinner. Then a movie. I was terrified the whole time. Terrified of trusting again. Terrified of being wrong about someone again. terrified of letting my guard down. But Dominic was patient. He didn't push. He didn't demand. He just showed up, consistently and kindly, until I started to believe he might be real. "I'm not good at this," I told him after our 5th date. "I don't know how to trust people anymore." "That's okay," he said. "We'll figure it out together. No rush." No rush. Julian had been all rush. All intensity and grand gestures and overwhelming presence. Dominic was steady. Calm. Safe. I liked safe. We dated for 6 months before I let him meet my father. Dad was skeptical at first. Grilled Dominic about his job and his intentions and his past relationships. But Dominic handled it well. Answered every question honestly. Made no promises he couldn't keep. "He's good," Dad said after Dominic left. "Nothing like Julian." "I know. So why do you look scared?" "Because good doesn't mean forever. Julian seemed good at first too. Julian was never good. You just wanted him to be. But this guy? He's actually kind. I can see it." I wanted to believe that. I was trying to believe that. Meanwhile, my business kept growing. We moved to a bigger office. Hired more staff. I started doing speaking engagements at women's conferences. Telling my story. Helping others avoid my mistakes. People called me inspiring. A survivor. A fighter. I still just felt like someone who'd been really stupid for a really long time and finally woke up. But if my stupidity could help other women wake up faster, then maybe it was worth something. Julian's trial finally ended. The verdict came on a Friday afternoon. Patricia called me from the courthouse. Guilty. All counts. Sentencing in 6 weeks. How long do you think he'll get? 15 to 20 years. Maybe more. 15 to 20 years. Julian would be an old man when he got out. His empire was gone. His reputation was destroyed. His life was over. I waited to feel something. Victory. Relief. Satisfaction. Instead, I just felt empty. "You okay?" Patricia asked. "I don't know what I feel." "That's normal. You spent years with him. Even though he was terrible, he was still part of your life. It's okay to grieve that." But I wasn't grieving Julian. I was grieving the time I'd lost. The years I'd wasted. The woman I'd been before him who I'd never get back. That night, Dominic came over. I told him about the verdict. He held me while I cried. "I thought I'd feel better when it was over," I said. "But I just feel sad. Because it's not really over. Healing takes time. Longer than trials and verdicts." He was right. The legal battle was done, but the internal one was still going. I kept working. Kept building my business. Kept trying to trust Dominic. Kept putting one foot in front of the other. And slowly, very slowly, I started to feel like myself again. Not the self I'd been before Julian. That woman was gone. But a new self. Stronger. Wiser. Less willing to shrink. I liked her. This new version of me who didn't apologize for taking up space. Who didn't make herself small for anyone. Who fought back instead of staying silent. Julian had tried to destroy me. Instead, he'd made me dangerous. And I was just getting started. The sentencing hearing was held on a cold morning in November. Almost a year since I'd discovered Julian's betrayal. Almost a year since I'd started planning his destruction. I wore a navy suit and minimal makeup. Patricia had advised me to look serious but not vengeful. "You're the wronged wife, not the evil ex, remember that." The courthouse was packed. Reporters lined the steps. Cameras everywhere. This was the story everyone had been following. The billionaire's fall from grace. The wife who brought him down. I sat in the gallery with my father on one side and Patricia on the other. Dominic had offered to come, but I'd said no. This part of my life was separate. He didn't need to be here. Julian was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit. He'd been denied bail after trying to flee to Monaco. The man who'd owned penthouses and vacation homes and luxury cars was now property of the state. He looked terrible. Thin and pale and old. Prison had not been kind to him. Our eyes met for a moment. I saw rage there. Hatred. Blame. He still thought this was my fault. Like I'd forced him to steal and cheat and lie. Like I'd made him become a criminal. I looked away. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The proceeding began. Julian's lawyer made a statement asking for leniency. Talked about Julian's contributions to the business community. His charity work. His potential for rehabilitation. It was garbage and everyone knew it. Then the prosecutor spoke. She laid out every crime Julian had committed. Every person he'd hurt. Every law he'd broken. She read excerpts from victim statements. Business partners who'd lost millions. Employees who'd lost their jobs. Investors who'd lost their retirement savings. Julian had destroyed a lot of lives. Mine was just one of many. The judge asked if Julian wanted to make a statement. He stood up slowly. I made mistakes, he said, his voice rough. I got caught up in the pressure of running a company. I made bad decisions. But I never meant to hurt anyone. Lies. All lies. He'd meant to hurt everyone. That was the point. I asked the court for mercy. I asked for a chance to make things right. The judge looked unimpressed. Mr. Rothwell, you have been convicted of multiple counts of fraud, embezzlement, tax evasion, and money laundering. You stole from your business partners, lied to investors, and hid assets from the government. You showed no remorse until you were caught. You attempted to flee the country to avoid prosecution. You have blamed everyone but yourself for your crimes. Julian opened his mouth to argue. The judge held up her hand. The court has reviewed all the evidence and testimony. We have considered your history, your crimes, and the impact on your victims. Mr. Rothwell, you are hereby sentenced to 24 years in federal prison, to be followed by 5 years of supervised release. You are also ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $47 million to your victims. 24 years. The courtroom erupted. Reporters scrambling for their phones. Julian's lawyer objecting. Julian himself standing there looking shocked, like he'd really believed he'd get away with it. I sat still, taking it all in. 24 years. He'd be 70 when he got out. An old man with nothing and no one. The guards led him away. He looked back once, his eyes finding mine. I stared back, my face blank. This was the end. The final chapter of Julian Rothwell's empire. Outside the courthouse, Patricia made a statement to the press. I stood beside her, saying nothing while cameras clicked and reporters shouted questions. Mrs. Rothwell, how do you feel about the sentence? Do you think justice was served? Will you be pursuing civil charges? Have you spoken to Julian since the verdict? Patricia answered some of the questions. I just stood there playing my role. The dignified ex-wife. The woman who'd done the right thing. Finally, we got into a waiting car and drove away from the chaos. How are you feeling? Dad asked. Empty. That's normal. Is it? I thought I'd feel something. Victory or relief or anything. But I just feel nothing. Patricia turned to look at me. You spent a year preparing for this. A year building evidence and testifying and reliving the worst parts of your marriage. Now it's over. Your body is in shock. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was just numb. We dropped Patricia off at her office. Dad drove me home to Brooklyn. To my small apartment that was nothing like the penthouse I'd left behind. You want me to stay? He asked. No, I'm okay. I just need to sleep. But I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about 5 years of my life that were just gone. 5 years of loving a man who never existed. 5 years of being someone I wasn't. All of it just gone. My phone buzzed. Text from Dominic. Saw the news. You okay? I stared at the message for a long time. Was I okay? I didn't know. I'm fine. Just tired. Want company? I can bring food. Part of me wanted to say yes. To let someone take care of me. To not be alone. But another part of me needed the solitude. Needed to sit with this emptiness and figure out what it meant. Maybe tomorrow. I need to be alone tonight. Okay. I'm here if you change your mind. Sweet. Caring. Everything Julian wasn't. But I still couldn't fully trust it. Couldn't fully believe that someone could be kind without wanting something in return. Julian had broken that in me. The ability to trust. To believe in goodness. I got up and made tea. Sat on my couch and looked out the window at the Brooklyn street below. People walking dogs. Couples holding hands. Life going on like normal. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Natasha. It's Simone. I should have hung up. Should have blocked the number. Instead I said, what do you want? I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I know you don't want to hear it, but I need to say it. You already said it. In that magazine interview. Remember? That wasn't real. That was my lawyer's idea. This is real. I'm really sorry. For what? For sleeping with my husband? For laughing about me behind my back? For being part of his plan to destroy me? I didn't know about any of that. He told me your marriage was over. He said you were just staying together for appearances. And you believed him. Yes, I was stupid. I wanted to believe I was special. That he loved me. He didn't love you. He didn't love anyone. He's a narcissist who used people and threw them away when they stopped being useful. Silence on the other end. Then, I know that now. But at the time I thought, I don't care what you thought. You made a choice. You chose to be with a married man. You chose to participate in hurting me. Now you have to live with that choice. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. Okay, you're sorry. Is that all? I lost my job because of this. My friends won't talk to me. Everyone thinks I'm a terrible person. You are a terrible person. More silence. Then she hung up. I sat there holding my phone, feeling the first real emotion I'd felt all day. Anger. Hot and fierce and satisfying. Simone wanted my forgiveness. Wanted me to make her feel better about her choices. But I had no forgiveness to give. She'd made her bed. Now she could lie in it alone. I blocked her number and went to bed. The next morning I woke up feeling different. Lighter somehow. Like a weight had been lifted. Julian was in prison. The trial was over. My business was thriving. I had my father back. I had Dominic, whatever that relationship was becoming. I had my life back. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It was better. I got dressed and went to my office. My team was waiting with flowers and champagne. We wanted to celebrate, my assistant said. Justice was served. We toasted. We laughed. We talked about upcoming cases and new clients in the future. For the first time in a year, I felt hope. The phone rang. A woman from California. Her husband was hiding assets. She needed help. I can help you, I said. Tell me everything. And just like that, I moved forward. 2 years later, I stood in my new penthouse overlooking Central Park. Not as big as the one I'd shared with Julian, but it was mine. Every piece of furniture. Every painting on the wall. Every decision about the space. Mine. Winters Consulting had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. 12 employees. Offices in 3 cities. A book deal for my memoir about financial abuse and recovery. Speaking engagements across the country. I'd become someone I never expected. A businesswoman. An advocate. A voice for women who'd lost themselves in bad marriages. The book launch party was tonight. Dad was flying in from Florida, where he'd retired to a beach house. Patricia was coming. My entire team. And Dominic, who'd been there through all of it. Dominic and I had moved slowly. So slowly that sometimes I wondered if we were moving at all. But that was okay. I needed slow. I needed someone who understood that trust was earned, not given. He'd met my father dozens of times now. They went fishing together. Talked about philosophy and life in the future. Dad approved, which meant everything. You sure about this guy? Dad had asked last month. I'm not sure about anything. But I'm trying. That's all you can do. Dominic had never pushed for more. Never demanded I move in or get married or make promises I wasn't ready to make. He just showed up, consistently and kindly, letting me set the pace. It was strange after Julian. Julian had been all intensity and possession. Dominic was all patience and respect. I was learning to trust it. Learning to believe that maybe some people were actually good. My phone buzzed. Text from Patricia. Saw the news about Julian. Thought you should know. My stomach tightened. I opened the link she'd sent. Former billionaire Julian Rothwell released early for good behavior. Early release. After just 18 months instead of 24 years. I read the article carefully. Julian had cooperated with authorities. Provided information about other financial criminals. Shown remorse. Been a model prisoner. All lies probably. But lies that worked. He was out. I waited for panic. For fear. For something. Instead I felt nothing. Julian was out of prison. So what? His empire was gone. His reputation was destroyed. His money was gone, paid out in restitution. He was a middle-aged man with a felony record and no prospects. He couldn't hurt me anymore. I texted Patricia back. Thanks for letting me know. I'm fine. And I was fine. The doorbell rang. Dominic, arriving early to help me get ready for the party. You look stressed, he said, kissing my cheek. Julian got out of prison. His expression darkened. Are you safe? Do you need security? I'm fine. He can't touch me. And even if he wanted to, he knows I'd destroy him again. Dominic studied my face. You're really okay? I really am. He's not part of my life anymore. He's just a news story. And it was true. Julian had become someone I used to know. A character in a story I told at speaking engagements. The villain in my origin story as a businesswoman and advocate. But he wasn't real anymore. Not to me. Your book is going to be amazing, Dominic said, changing the subject. I'm proud of you. You read the advance copy? 3 times. It's powerful, Natasha. You're going to help so many women. That was the hope. That my pain could prevent someone else's. That my mistakes could teach someone else to see the red flags I'd missed. The party that night was perfect. 100 people crowded into a gallery in Chelsea. Champagne and speeches and congratulations. My book stacked on tables ready to be signed. Dad gave a toast that made me cry. My daughter was lost for a while. But she found herself again. And she's stronger than ever. I'm so proud of who you've become. Patricia spoke next. Natasha Rothwell is the bravest client I've ever had. She fought back when most people would have given up. She chose truth over comfort. And she won. Then it was my turn. I stood in front of everyone holding a microphone, looking at all these people who'd supported me through the worst time of my life. 2 years ago I lost everything. My marriage. My home. My identity. I thought I was broken beyond repair. But I was wrong. I wasn't broken. I was just buried under someone else's expectations and cruelty. And when I finally dug myself out, I found someone I actually liked. Someone strong and capable and unwilling to be invisible. I paused, looking at Dominic. He smiled at me, encouraging. This book is about that journey. About recognizing abuse even when it's subtle. About finding the courage to leave. About rebuilding from nothing. But mostly it's about the fact that you can survive anything. You can lose everything and still find yourself on the other side. The room erupted in applause. People came up to hug me and tell me their stories. Women who'd escaped their own Julian Rothwells. Women who were still planning their escape. Women who just needed to know they weren't alone. I signed books for hours. Listened to stories. Gave advice. Connected women with resources. This was my purpose now. Not being someone's wife. Not making myself small. But standing tall and helping others stand tall too. Late that night, after everyone had gone home, Dominic and I sat on my couch with leftover champagne. You were amazing tonight, he said. I felt amazing. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm glad. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Dominic said, I have something to tell you. My chest tightened. Here it comes. The other shoe dropping. The reveal that he's not who I thought he was. What is it? I love you. I have for a while now. And I'm not saying that to pressure you or to get anything from you. I just wanted you to know. I stared at him. Well, the word that had become toxic in my marriage. The word Julian had used as a weapon. But from Dominic's mouth it sounded different. Softer. Real. I don't know if I can say it back yet, I admitted. I don't know if I trust the word anymore. That's okay. I'm not going anywhere. Take your time. Take your time. No pressure. No demands. Just patience. Maybe this was what healthy love looked like. Not grand gestures and intensity, but quiet consistency and respect. Thank you, I said. For being patient with me. For not pushing. You're worth the wait. We kissed and it felt right. Not fireworks and passion like it had been with Julian in the beginning, but warm and safe and real. I was learning that fireworks burn out. But steady flames last forever. The next week I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Natasha Rothwell? A woman's voice. Yes. My name is Jennifer. You don't know me, but I just finished reading your book. And I wanted to thank you. Thank me for what? For writing it. For being brave enough to tell your story. My husband has been doing the same things to me that yours did. Hiding money. Having affairs. Making me feel crazy. I thought I was alone. But your book showed me I'm not. My throat tightened. You're definitely not alone. I'm leaving him. I have a lawyer. I'm documenting everything just like you did. And I'm going to get my life back. You absolutely are. And if you need help, my firm specializes in cases like yours. I know. That's why I'm calling. Can I make an appointment? Of course. I'll have my assistant set it up. After we hung up, I sat there feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. Real deep purpose. This was why I'd survived Julian. Not just to rebuild my own life, but to help others rebuild theirs. More calls came in over the following weeks. More women who'd read the book and recognized themselves in my story. More clients for my firm. More lives I could help change. The book hit the bestseller list. I did interviews on morning shows and podcasts. I became known as the woman who'd taken down her billionaire husband and built an empire from the ashes. It was surreal. But it was also deeply satisfying. 6 months after the book launch, I was giving a speech at a women's conference in Chicago when I saw him. Julian. He was standing at the back of the ballroom, looking older and smaller than I remembered. Our eyes met. He didn't approach. Just watched. I finished my speech without missing a beat. Talked about financial abuse and red flags and the importance of documenting everything. The audience gave me a standing ovation. When I looked back, Julian was gone. Later, I found a note slipped under my hotel room door. I'm sorry for everything. I destroyed both our lives. I hope you can find happiness. Jay. I read it once, then threw it away. Too little. Too late. And I'd already found happiness. Not because of him or in spite of him. Just because I'd chosen to find it. That night I called Dominic. I love you, I said. I'm ready to say it now. I could hear the smile in his voice. I love you too. I'm also ready for you to move in. If you want to. I want to. We talked for an hour about logistics and furniture and what it would mean. It was practical and boring and perfect. This was real love. Not drama and passion and intensity, but partnership and respect and choosing each other every day. I'd learned that lesson the hard way. But I'd learned it. A year later, Winters Consulting had offices in 6 cities. I'd written a second book about rebuilding after divorce. I'd helped hundreds of women escape financial abuse. And I'd built a life that was entirely my own. Dad came to visit every few months. He and Dominic had become close friends. They talked philosophy and went to baseball games and treated each other with the kind of easy affection that came from mutual respect. You did good, Tasha, Dad said one night over dinner. Your mom would be so proud. I wish she could see this. She can. And she's up there cheering you on. I believed him. I had to believe that all the pain had led somewhere good. That Julian's cruelty had forged me into something stronger. I didn't thank him for it. I didn't owe him gratitude for hurting me. But I was grateful for who I'd become in spite of him. The woman who fought back. The woman who refused to stay silent. The woman who built an empire helping other women do the same. I saw a news article about Julian working at a car dealership in New Jersey. Living in a small apartment. Starting over at 50 with nothing. Part of me wanted to feel bad for him. But I couldn't. He'd made his choices. Now he had to live with them. Just like I was living with mine. And my choices had led me here. To this life. This business. This relationship. This version of myself that I actually liked. I was finally happy. Really truly happy. Not because I'd destroyed Julian, though that had been necessary. But because I'd discovered myself. The woman who'd been buried under his contempt and cruelty had clawed her way to the surface. And she was magnificent. I stood in my office one morning looking at the wall of photos. Women I'd helped. Families I'd saved. Lives I'd changed. This was my legacy. Not being Julian Rothwell's ex-wife. Not being a victim. But being Natasha Winters. Businesswoman. Advocate. Survivor. Fighter. I'd rather kiss a dog, Julian had said. Turned out, I'd rather be alone than be with someone who saw me that way. And in being alone I'd found myself. Then I'd found someone who saw me for who I really was. Who loved the strong, fierce, unbreakable version of me. My phone rang. Another woman needing help. Another life to save. This is Natasha, I answered. Tell me your story. And I listened. Because that's what I did now. I listened to women who'd been silenced. I helped them find their voices. I showed them how to fight back. One woman at a time, I was changing the world. Julian had tried to destroy me. Instead, he'd created his own worst nightmare. A woman who refused to be destroyed. A woman who fought back. A woman who won. And I was just getting started.